Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Leslie presents. And now your host, Paul Leslie.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is our extreme pleasure to welcome this man, Mr. Richard M. Sherman. He's an inductee of the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and no matter where you are, chances are you have heard his music. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. It's a joy to be with you.
I think most stories are best from the beginning. Could you tell us a little bit about what life was like growing up for you?
Well, I actually came from a very musical family. My father was a popular songwriter in the 20s and 30s and 40s, and he wrote a lot of big hits like You Gotta Be a Football Hero and things like that, which were, older people would know that song, or Eddie Cantor's famous Potatoes Are Cheaper, Tomatoes Are Cheaper, Now's the Time to Fall in Love, a big depression hit. There was a big depression hit song. And, you know, he was a very, very prolific and talented man, and we grew up in a house, my brother Robert and I, a house full of music and full of literature and art, and we talked about it all the time, and the show business, and it was a very creative kind of an atmosphere. My mom had been an actress, and she played beautiful piano. She played a beautiful piano, and my dad was a fine musician. He played great piano as well, and it sort of came natural to me. I could play it, you know, just I'd hear something and play. It was just part of the atmosphere. I never took it for as anything very particularly special. Of course, I put it to work years later. But my brother wanted to write plays and art projects. He was a painter. He loved to paint, and he also wrote poetry, and he was a talented guy. And I used to do a little of that, but mostly I was very musical. And years later, when Bob and I got out of college, is when Dad said, you know, you guys should team up. And he put us together, and we became the Sherman Brothers. And I learned a lot about lyric writing and started writing lyrics. And Bob learned a lot about music and started composing. And so we sort of like taught each other a lot about the thing that we were best at. And we became a hell of a team. And that was it.
Well, speaking of your father, having written songs recorded by the likes of Eddie Cantor, what did your father teach you most about songwriting?
Aha, well, that's a very good question. I'm glad you asked that, because he gave us a secret to what a great song was all about, and that was the idea behind the song. He said, you don't have to just write a tune or just rhyme Moon, June, and Goon. That's not the way you write songs. You come up with an idea, and you set the idea to music and lyrics, and that becomes something special. And then he said you have three little words you can remember. Keep it simple, singable, and sincere, and be original at all times. Always be original, but keep it with the three S's: simple, singable, sincere. We try to always do that. Write a sincere song that was a tune with a catchy phrase in it so you could sing it, you could hum it, and try to be very, very original about the whole thing, so you didn't just say it the way everybody else said it. And that was our modus operandi, you might say.
You mentioned that you primarily wrote the lyrics and he primarily composed melody.
No, I didn't say that. No, I said, no, we both had a gift in that area. My brother was very much into words, and I was very much into music. But we learned from each other, so we wrote together, and we collaborated on all of our lyrics, and we collaborated on the music as well. I was the musician of the two of us, but he had a lot to do with how I wrote the tune and what I would say. And if we lift, you know, your eraser is the greatest friend of any writer, and what you don't do. The thing we always try to find out is a way of doing things that nobody else would have done it.
Personally, are you more moved by the lyrics or the melody, or could you even decide?
The combination of both is the thing that gets to me. If the words and music really mate and become part of one, that moves me very much. Then I hear something. That's a song. Then it's great. If you just hear notes and words, it's lots of people write notes and words. You don't remember them. They come in and they go out. But a song, something that has a catchphrase, has something to say, my God, you just don't forget it. You just hear it and it stays with you. That's a great song.
Do you believe you were born with the gift of songwriting?
I believe I was born with a gift of musical ability. Songwriting is a skill and an art that you develop, you work at. You have to write a lot of garbage before you come up with the good ones. You have to learn how to discern between the obvious and the thing that makes it special and fresh. And that takes honing, it takes years to really become proficient at it. That's my personal opinion. Now, there are a lot of one-shot wonders that sit in the garage and write one song and become hit writers. And I don't know if they can follow through with that, but they can write a song. But to write consistently and to write of a high quality constantly, it takes a lot of years of practice and everything to do that, in my opinion.
How did you find your way to Beverly Hills?
Well, I was very easily. My father and mother moved from New York City in 1937, and I was a little boy then, and we moved to Beverly Hills, California, and I lived there ever since. This is my home.
How old were you when you moved out there to Beverly Hills?
Well, I was born in 1928, so I guess I was about 9.
Can you remember your impression of it, moving out there as a young guy?
I do. I remember vividly. The smell of orange blossoms in the air. It was so warm and friendly and picturesque, and there was green everywhere, and it was just a wonderful place, and it wasn't overcrowded. It was, pre-war, pre the Second World War, and it was just a quiet kind of a village. Beverly Hills was a little village. It wasn't a sprawling city. The greater Los Angeles area now is just one continuous city. It goes on and on and on, but in those days there were little segments like Beverly Hills, and then there was Westwood, and there was Brentwood, little villages kind of things, and now it's all one big clump.
What do you find Southern California to be like as a writer and a creator?
I think when a writer writes, he's with himself and his suggestions and his ideas, and he can be in a closet in Bermuda. He can be on a trolley in China. He could be anywhere. He's in his mind. He's writing. I don't believe that where I live or where I write has any bearing on what I write, because I've been in London, I've written in a hotel room, I've been in New York, and I've written in a little tiny apartment with a pull-down bed. I've been everywhere, and I've written, and it's what goes on in your brain. It's all up there, and the environment, the fact that I can smell orange blossoms in Southern California has no bearing on what I'm writing, because I'm where the subject is. I've always written to the subject and the flavor of the subject.
How did it feel the first time something that you wrote was performed or recorded by an artist?
Well, let me tell you, it's a very, very, very special thing, particularly to someone who strives to be walking with those wonderful greats that you admire. And when you hear somebody who really knows how to perform a song do it, there's nothing like it. It's like you're walking on a cloud. I remember vividly the very early recordings, and I remember the great recordings that were made during my career, and I can never forget hearing them the first time. When I first heard Julie Andrews sing A Spoonful of Sugar, I mean, everybody was smiling and happy. I was the one with tears in my eyes. They were coming out, and I was crying because it was so beautiful. They were happy tears. But it was a realization of something incredible that we'd been dreaming of, to do this film called Mary Poppins. And this was the keynote song that Julie Andrews sang as Mary Poppins. And it was just incredible. I mean, we said, oh, my God, this is it. And it's a great feeling.
How important do you believe it is to be optimistic, positive?
Well, I tell you, you can't just sort of turn a switch and say, I am going to be optimistic, and I'm going to be a positive person. You're either born with it. There are people that are just gloomy folks, and they see the bad side of everything. I've always seen that the glass is half filled. I never say, oh, it's half empty. It's just a feeling I've had, and I think Bob and I had that optimistic, positive feeling in our lives. Maybe it was given to us by our parents or something. They gave us confidence. And Walt Disney was our boss for so many years, and he was a very positive man. He hated negativism. We were very positive in our thinking. So it's not something you say, hey, I'm going to be a positive thinker. It's just that's the way I am. That's the way I was constructed. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with the positive feelings I used to get from my folks, because they said, you got to believe in yourself. That's where it starts.
You just mentioned the late Walt Disney. What was your first impression of Walt Disney when you met him?
We didn't realize it, but Walt Disney was very aware of the Sherman brothers because we had been writing songs for a little girl named Annette Funicello, and she had done a lot of rock and roll songs that we had written, and then she was starting to do production songs, and Walt was aware of all of our songs. He'd heard these records, and Annette was his star. She was in this group called the Mouseketeers, and she was the biggest, most popular of all the Mouseketeers, and so she brought us into the realm of Walt Disney by Walt wanted to put her in a film, and he said, why don't you get those two young fellas that are writing the cute songs for her, because he liked our songs, to write something for her for this film. And so when we did write the song, we were brought into his office to play it for him. Absolutely terrified, because here was this man that we'd seen on the television every Sunday night telling about his shows, and here he was in person, in the flesh. It was terrifying, but he was so friendly and warm and nice about everything. It was a great experience for us, and he liked what we did, and he gave us more assignments, and next thing you know, we were his guys.
You mentioned Annette Funicello a little earlier.
Yes.
As someone who is named Paul, my mother would sing Tall Paul to me all the time. So tell us about tell us about writing that song.
Well, Tall Paul was a song that actually came about this way. I was struggling, as my brother was too, trying to just sort of keep ourselves afloat, and I had different jobs in order to keep myself in the music business. I did artificial flowers. I decorated dentists' offices and private homes with plastic plants. And one day I was driving down a street in Los Angeles, and I saw a sign. It said the Tall Girls Shop, and the word tall was written vertically, not horizontally. It was down, Tall Girls Shop, and in vertical line straight down. And I looked at the word for the first time, because you never think of words vertically, you think of them horizontally. So I was saying, tall, that's a wonderful word, tall. What rhymes with tall? Paul, Tall Paul. That's a good idea. That's a good title. Because back in 1958, mind you, it's a long time ago, a lot of hit songs were being written, and boys were singing them, and there were songs about a girl's characteristics. Long, tall Sally, short, fat Fanny, skinny Minnie. There were songs about a girl, and they were rockers, very cute rockers. So I was trying to be commercial, and I said, a rocker song about a guy, and he's the tallest guy in school, and she's in love with him. Tall Paul, he's my all. That rhymes, that's good. So I came in with that title one day to my brother's office. He had a little tiny publishing house. He was working on a song with this fellow who was in the room with him, working on his song, and they had a song, and it said, chalk on the sidewalk, missiles in a tree, everybody knows that she loves me. And he had that little sort of triplet going along. And I said, I've got a thought which might work for that thing. And they were looking for a song for a girl to sing. And I said, if you say, writing on the wall, everybody knows that she loves Paul, Tall Paul, he's my all. Oh, my God, everybody got excited. We started writing the song. He finished the song. I said, this is a really cute song. And a little record was made of it with a girl named Judy Harriet, a small label called Surf Records. And it came out, and nothing happened. It just laid there. But an executive at Disney, and this is where fate steps in, heard that song on the radio, and he was given a memo, look for material for Annette Funicello. We're going to put her on records. And so a fellow named Mo Perskel, he was in New York. He got a hold of that song, found out who the writers were, called us. They made a deal with my brother's publishing company to co-publish Tall Paul, and it became a smash hit, a top 10 song, and that became the doorway to our whole career, that little ditty.
Wow. I wanted to also ask about Chim Chim Cheree.
Aha, that's the chimney sweep song in Mary Poppins, right.
It's been recorded by a lot of different people. What do you think it is about the song that people find so appealing?
Well, who can explain these things? There's a catchphrase. First of all, if you hear the title, say, what is that all about? You know, and we're playing with the word chimney, and chimney is a mess of a word, and so we broke it up into chimney. We gave it a little rhythm, and then we said, let's play with it like we'd say, chim chim chiroo, chim chim chiree, chim chim chirah. We were playing with that, and we said, there was a legend about chimney sweeps, and we were writing the song for a character who was going to be a major character in Mary Poppins, and so we wanted to give him a song. And the chimney sweep is a very low man on the totem pole of life, you might say, but he has special charm about him. And there's a lucky legend that if you shake hands with a chimney sweep, or if you get a little soot on your hand from him, or something like, or he blows you a kiss, that is great luck. That is good luck. So we said, wow, what an idea for a song. It's sensational. Mary Poppins could sing it and teach children all about the legend of chimney sweeps. You see, long before the tune, long before the lyrics, came the idea. The idea of the whole song was the thing that gave us the inspiration to go ahead and do it. And we played a lot with how to play with it. And finally we had Chim Chimney, Chim Chimney, Chim Chim Cheree. It had a rhythm. It had a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 going as we played with those words. I remember my brother threw a line out. He said, 1 chimney, 2 chimney, 3 chimney. I said, yeah, that's nice, but I don't like 1 chimney. How about playing with a chim chimney, chim chimney? Yeah, that's better. And Bob and I, we used to play ping pong with words and ideas back and forth, and that's how it came out. And so what is it that makes it happen? I think it's the concept, the idea, the things behind it, the melodic line, the idea that it has a minor yet a major feel to it, because there's a what they call a chromatic descending line in the harmonies that gives it a major and minor feeling. It's not just a heavy minor feeling. And all these things are part and parcel of what goes into the song, of course. There. Try to make it simple.
Great answer, though. There have been so many legendary singers, recording artists who have recorded your songs. Everyone from Louis Armstrong to Ringo Starr. So who has been the best at interpreting a song you wrote?
Oh, there's so many great ones. Burl Ives did some great songs of ours, and Louis Armstrong, you don't get better than that. I think I've got to give the medal, if there is such a thing, who really created something forever, and that I think is Julie. Julie Andrews singing Feed the Birds, for example. Nobody ever sang it better. And a lot of great people have done it. Julie Andrews singing Spoonful of Sugar, Stay Awake. Those songs, the duets she did with Dick Van Dyke are incredible, and Dick, of course, is superb. And they did Supercalifragilistic, and with such vitality and showmanship. And I think there's so many things that I can give as examples of what I loved about that. But I think Poppins and Julie are the highlights of my musical output, although there have been a lot of other things that I've done, but I'm very proud of that.
This is probably a just about impossible question.
Oh, good.
But here we go. If you could pick one song, if you had to pick one that would be most associated with the Sherman Brothers, which one would it be?
Most associated? Oh, my goodness.
Your theme song.
Well, here's the thing. There are so many songs that are very personal to me. I think there's one song that people either want to kiss us or kill us for having written, and that It's a Small World After All. And that song, of course, is perhaps the most performed song on earth today, because there's no place that the sun goes down that It's a Small World isn't playing at a Disney theme park, if nowhere else. And it's been translated into practically every language on the face of the earth. So that is our most famous song, and I'm very, very fond of course. I love the song. It's a message of peace and understanding, and a prayer that people would give each other a little respect and love each other, and at least learn to live with each other. That's the prayer that's fervent in everybody's mind, if you're sane. But that still is not my personal favorite. I think it would have to be Feed the Birds. And I'll tell you why. Walt loved that song, and I adored Walt Disney very, very much. And he used to actually play it for him sometimes. He just would listen to it. He just said, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Because it has nothing to do with the price of breadcrumbs. You know that.
Right.
Feed the Birds is symbolic. It's a pure symbolism. It means you've got to give a little love to people. It costs nothing to do that. And you have to give a little care and understanding, a smile. Take the kids out, fly a kite with them, like we did in Mary Poppins. That's feeding the birds. We all need a little of that bird seed.
What songwriters would you say have influenced you the most?
Oh, well, I'd say that's easy because there are certain people that I absolutely dearly worship. Jerome Kern, Oscar Hammerstein, Rodgers and Hammerstein, the same Hammerstein. I think Noel Coward, the great, brilliant mind, that Englishman, fantastic. Did I say Rodgers and Hart? I did, yeah. Johnny Mercer, the genius of Johnny Mercer, and the brilliance of Harold Arlen. There's so many people that were so very much influenced to me. But I think the biggest personal influence was my dad, who knew how to write a good pop tune, and that was the key to it all. Simple, singable, sincere, and original. That's where it all starts. So most of our songs, no matter how book-oriented they are and how wedded they are to a character or a period, still you can sing it coming out of the theater. You can still hum a little piece of it, no matter what it is, because we tried to keep them singable so people can be access to them. And that a lot of people say, well, that's writing simply. No, it's writing them with that magic, that thing that makes it popular.
What do you think about Alan Menken?
I think Alan Menken's brilliant. He's a wonderful composer. He's a very nice guy, too. We did a joint concert together, and it was a lot of fun. We have a mutual admiration society. He's very fond of my work, and he says I influence a lot of what he's done, and I certainly admire what he's done, and he continues to write beautifully, and he's been very successful, and God bless him.
What's the litmus test? What makes a good song a good song?
Singability, I think, catchability, originality, the concept, the wedding of the words and the music so they sound like they were done of a singular intelligence. All these things are very, very important. I think words and music have to wed together. I'm not talking about the clever patter songs that people churn out with great inner rhymes and things like that. I'm talking about a song that lives in your heart. That's something that's very, very special, and it's a wedding of the magic of words and the magic of music coming together to give a third dimension. Yeah, that's it.
What is the best thing about being Richard Sherman?
Well, I still have my health, I think. I'm very, very lucky. I'm very aware of the world. I'm very aware of the world we're living in. I always have been, and yet I've been able to carve my own little world of positivism, and you brought that up earlier. I think the best thing about being me is I have these wonderful kids. I have grandchildren now, and I have a great wife. We've been married 57 years in July. It's going to be 57 years. I love her, and we have a great life together. And I think it's just a matter we share everything. And I think one of the great joys in my life is the fact that no matter where I go, people know my stuff, and they love our songs that Bob and I wrote. I just feel very lucky that I've been in the position I have been put in to sometimes I raise money for very wonderful causes by playing medleys of songs and things like that. I just did a big thing for a cancer research thing just the other day, and it's nice to be able to be me. I like being me, and I'm very proud of the things that I did with my brother Bob. I'm very happy about that.
I listened to the podcast on Soda Jerker, the two British gentlemen that interviewed you.
Oh, yeah.
And they paid you a lot of compliments, but the one that I thought was funny and a true compliment, they said, "We're almost offended at how good your songs are." So with that, what is the greatest compliment you've ever received as a songwriter?
Oh, my goodness. That's so difficult. That's a difficult thing. There's a line in Mary Poppins that I've always loved to quote because it came right from the heart, and that was when Mr. Banks thinks he's lost everything, and he thinks he's been fired from the bank, and Bert and he have a conversation, sort of a man-to-man talk, and then Mr. Banks sort of reflects, and he says, "A man has dreams of walking with giants to carve his niche in the edifice of time." These are lines that Mr. Banks says. I've always dreamt, from the time I was a little boy, of walking with giants, of, in other words, the Kerns and the Rodgers and Hammersteins and the Stephen Sondheims and these great writers of song. I wanted to be considered in that league. I wanted to be up there walking with those giants. And every once in a while I think about that. I get a chance to say, yeah, I'm one of them now. Isn't that nice? My God, it's just a great feeling. That's the biggest joy, I think. I hope I answered the question.
Absolutely. Wow. So this is an open-ended one. For anyone who's listening to this broadcast, wherever they may be, what would you like to say to them?
If you're a dreamer and you have hopes and prayers of getting somewhere, never give up. Keep trying, keep slugging away, and give your best to everything you do. Because one day the right person will hear what you've done or read what you've done or see what you've created as an artist, and they'll say, hey, I like that. And that can start it all, because that's exactly what happened to Bob and me. We kept trying and trying and trying, and one day a little ditty, a little rocker, opened the door to our entire career. And that was what I talked about earlier, give it all you've got all the time.
My final question, who is Richard Sherman?
He's a very lucky guy who lives in Beverly Hills, California with his wife and likes to go to the movies, likes to go to plays. I just saw a wonderful revival of Little Abner out here. I laughed myself silly. It was such funny stuff. And I don't know, I enjoy life. Richard Sherman is a very fortunate guy. He does what he loves to do. I still write. I still am involved in a lot of things. We're doing a revival of a stage version, rather, of the Jungle Book, and it's very exciting, and a stage version of Bedknobs and Broom Sticks, which is also just in the formative stage, but it's very exciting for me. And I have a lot of projects that I'm involved in. And so I keep busy. I'm 85, going to be 86, and I still feel like I'm about 25, so that's good. That's Richard Sherman.
Well, Mr. Sherman, on behalf of the listening audience, thank you very much for this interview, and also thank you for these songs that have very much found their way in people's hearts from all ages and in places all over the world. It's a wonderful gift that you gave the world.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, and I'm glad to be talking with you, and thank you for all the good questions.
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.